Hello, beautiful people. You are listening to the Communal Table Podcast, part of Food and Wine Pro. I'm your host, Kat Kinsman, senior editor at Food and Wine. And as is usual, right now I am recording from my apartment in Brooklyn because, like the rest of you, I am social distancing at home. And we are all trying our best right now. So as always, I apologize for sound quality if my radiator clanks on or you hear my neighbor's various animals and my own. But, we're all trying our best right now. Somebody else who is definitely trying their best and doing a lot of really, really great work right now is Trigg Brown of Winsun and Winsun Bakery in my borough here of Brooklyn. He's been through it like everybody in the restaurant industry lately, the closing, the reopening, and during all of this also, he had a baby. Well, he and his wife had a baby, a little bitty thing. And he was dealing with this momentous development in his life while everything was happening in restaurants, and also being sick himself. So despite all of that, because he is a person who has been in restaurants for such a long time and is driven by the need to do well by everyone, he established a fund for his own employees and undocumented workers because the truth of all of this is that American restaurants and so many American businesses run on the backs of labor from immigrants and of all different paperwork statuses. And, without them, the industry would just crumble, and as would so many, parts of the food pipeline. And they're left out of any sort of benefits that are being given out right now. And he saw a problem with that. He wanted to protect the most vulnerable people in our ecosystem. So he made sure that folks around him are being taken care of. And I'll let him talk about that. Welcome, Trigg Brown. Trigg Brown, thank you for making time today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh my gosh. So there are a million things I want to talk about with you. Obviously we're all living in the middle of kind of hell right now. And different areas of the country are dealing with it differently. But I wanted to talk to you in particular because of an effort that you made to take care of some of the folks who get frankly overlooked in by the federal government and aren't always treated well by the system and are pretty vulnerable. So right. Stop me if yes. So for folks listening, we had a pre-conversation about this because it's a delicate subject matter because we want to keep people really, really safe. And since our pre-conversation yesterday, the federal government has enacted some what I consider to be pretty hateful measures against immigrants. And, they're the backbone of the restaurant industry. So I want to talk about, let's first of all talk about Winsun and Winsun Bakery and what that is. So folks who don't know you yet, we'll get a window into what you do.
Yeah, cool. So Winsun and Winsun Bakery are it's a restaurant and a bakery / restaurant across the street from one another in East Williamsburg. We cook Taiwanese American food, which is like the best way we've been able to describe it. It's kind of fusiony, I suppose, but only because I'm not like a classically trained Chinese chef, and I'm just like a white guy with a deep interest in Taiwanese food and history. My business partner and dear friend Josh Koo and I met almost 10 years back and kind of bonded over some mutual interests. And my mentor was kind of coincidentally, he was a Taiwanese American guy. Well, actually, he's just straight up American. He's from LA, but his family is from Northeast China, and they came to Taiwan with the Chiang Kai-shek's regime, and that was about the extent of my mentor's family history that we talked about. We're still really good friends, and obviously talked about it a lot more since. But at the time, he was my cooking mentor, and I cooked like country club, like French food for him, and then I followed him to a Japanese restaurant and cooked, kitchen, the back of the house food that you'd see at a sushi restaurant. So like tempuras and some roasted fishes, and a lot of it was high end for Charlottesville, and really fun. That was in Virginia. So when I met Josh in New York, and he told me he was Taiwanese, we kind of just naturally started to talk about like where he eats Taiwanese food and what that is, and we kind of we'd go to these restaurants and that he grew up eating at, and he would kind of share with me what his like appreciation of Taiwanese food. Josh grew up going to Taiwan in the summers, and most of his family still lives there, and he was in property management and in construction, and we were basically he was vanilla boxing a spot to lease out, and then our friendship coupled with some other factors may kind of forced us to realize the opportunity in front of us to start a business together, and we had just been eating and cooking Taiwanese food together so much that we decided to move forward with the Taiwanese restaurant concept, and we imagined it to be like probably a little bit more casual and to go, and it ended up being a full blown restaurant concept that
Whoops.
has done. Yeah, and it's crazy. Yeah, I mean it's really it's been a crazy journey to get to where we're at right now. We hopefully we can keep it up. And with this COVID stuff, obviously we shut down our doors a while ago. After about 3 weeks, maybe a little more than 3 weeks, we opened up for to go and takeout. And we've been doing that through Caviar, who's out of the services, takeout delivery service platforms are pretty good to us.
Good. Yeah, because I know we've been covering how a lot of them are pretty predatory.
Yeah, I mean they are, and it's hard for anyone that doesn't work in the restaurant business, like on the line or on the floor, to really understand like the gravity of some, simple POS interface issues, or prioritizing. It's crazy. So beyond that, just thinking about it as a business, there's all sorts of things that are just misunderstood and not really treated fairly, and I think that stuff is working out at the expense of some of these other platforms. Hopefully, like some of the more predatory ones should, hopefully get thrown to the wayside to some extent. But Caviar has been relatively good to us. I think most of the issues we've had are strange technical ones that are seem unreasonable at certain times, but they've been able to work with us and help us out. So, and they also cut their rates in half throughout this time. So they're, I think it's still pricey for the customer, but at least for the restaurant, it's not too bad. We just really appreciate anybody who's ordering through them, because it helps us make transactions, conduct transactions safely, and keep our staff safe and keep customers safe.
Well, if your system's been getting slammed, it's because everybody on the food and wine team in your delivery zone is ordering like crazy.
Well, that means a lot to me. I hope none of the food's getting there cold. It's definitely a little bit stressful.
First of all, I think it's probably been perfect. And second of all, if people can't deal with a little bit of inconvenience with, how their delivery is showing up right now, we all just have to be much, much kinder and more understanding to each other right now, because, I know that you have been working so intensely, and you've had to make some tough decisions about, being open, and then, if you can, like, what is safe for staff. And can you talk through a little bit about some of those decisions that you've had to make with staffing during this time to keep folks safe, and also what you can afford?
Yeah. So, to keep folks safe, I mean, we initially, we kind of flirted around with the 50% thing, 50% capacity, which we weren't really super convinced was going to be that helpful because, if you're doing 200 covers in one night, is it really going to help you to do 100 covers in a night?
Mm-hmm.
So that weekend was a little tough. We were like, well, it'll probably like work itself out. So we'll kind of see how it goes. And, we realized some of our managers and staff team members were not exactly on the same page. And, that information was flying out at a record speed, like people were changing their mind, including ourselves and, and what we felt comfortable with. And, it was just a really tough weekend right before the government mandated everybody to shut down and or to go on delivery. And we actually decided to do that before, before the government asked us to shut down
Yeah.
our dine-in operation because we realized what kind of pressure it was putting on the staff. And at that point, admittedly, I wasn't, I was like, this is the flu. Come on, like it's ridiculous, because my job is to have a profitable business. My partner Josh Koo and Jesse Chappelle and I, our job is to run a business, and we can help our staff and we can help our team and
Mm-hmm.
be community members if we're running a successful business. But if we're not, then we can't do much to help. So the weight of that being on our shoulders is one thing, but then the government kind of, at a federal level or a local level, whatever it is, it's really frustrating that those kind of decisions fell on us. That was like the one, I expected leadership at some level. I didn't expect for us to have to, basically make decisions that yeah, it was really tough. And, we did decide to close because we thought it was the right thing to do. And afterwards, immediately after we started thinking about how we could, take care of health insurance premiums and rent and tax, income, sales tax, you know, um,
'Cause you've had it big.
all things that, build up so fast and can really bleed you dry. But, if we froze the operation and, limited the amount of money going out, we were like, well, we realized pretty quickly the people that were being screwed over, without access to unemployment or government stimulus were the undocumented employees. And we don't, that's a tough thing to see. We have everybody that works for us is documented. But, over the course of time, you kind of realize who's having more trouble or more challenges than others. And, you kind of realize who's going to get access to those benefits and who's not. And, oftentimes like the people that are having the most challenges with their, if their citizenship status is in litigation or if they're, actively pursuing it or, whatever their case may be, the ones that are most challenged are the ones that are least likely to get assistance. And,
Even though they pay taxes, I think that is something that a lot of people don't understand, is that even if folks are undocumented, they still pay taxes.
yeah, they just don't get anything back. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I,
crazy.
I was reading last night, and I'll double check to make sure about this, but I was seeing that a lot of like U.S. citizens who are married to legal immigrants are not getting their stimulus checks, and that was sort of a big surprise to me. And then, there was a Twitter edict last night from the commander in chief who was halting immigration and, legal immigration even. And it was such a fundamental misunderstanding of who makes up this country. And I want to focus this, and I want to, tread lightly, but also, talk about this, about who makes up who works in restaurants, because you're saying there you don't have undocumented people and stuff, but the industry would fall apart without immigrants of all different statuses. And they're,
with other industries too.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's crazy that people are so unwilling. I mean, I think Eater did an article and posted it about undocumented workers and funds that are out there to support these folks, and like the comments are like really hateful.
Oh,
It's just people have a gross misunderstanding of the role these folks play, and it's really sad, and it's crazy to me to see how these folks are. Everybody's getting paid such good unemployment. Or a lot of people, not everybody. A lot of people are having trouble getting unemployment too, but.
my husband's been waiting for weeks for his unemployment to come through. So
Yeah, so I didn't mean to bundle him in that category, but
yeah.
the people that are getting unemployment tend to be doing pretty well for themselves, and I'm happy for them. But it's also, and I'm sure some of our immigrant employees would be enjoying the same benefits if they could. But I wouldn't have been able to. My partner Josh and I are running both restaurants day and night. We're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, thank God. We're working day and night, and our assistant general manager Kat is with us, and our manager across the street at the bakery, Kevin, is with us there. And then aside from that, without the assistance of folks from Central America, one of our employees from Taiwan, a DACA dreamer or two. These folks are making it so that we can operate, and it's like emotional to see, to see that, because it's just not really properly understood, and the least we could do as the American people or whatever is provide some, is to demand pathways to citizenship after this is all said and done to some extent, because people wouldn't be getting fed without these folks, and it's just I don't know. I with like kind of the pulse I like take politically, like you know I'm from Virginia, and I've lived in New York for a long time now, but I can tell there's that kind of spreads over a wide and diverse group of people, ethnically, politically, and socioeconomically. And I feel like a lot of people are super defensive of Donald Trump, especially like unsolicited,
Mm-hmm.
um, statements defending him, and
I'm from Kentucky, so I get it.
yeah, you get it, right? It's like, a lot of people, it's just like, it's just weird. I don't understand. I don't think it's like a very conservative or Republican ideal to, adamantly defend the leader. And, the Republican Party is all about like power to truth. And, but everybody's just falling in line right now and kind of doing what they're told. And it's like, it's just like gross misinformation. And, it's just crazy. Like, and I feel like sort of like at some level hypocritical, because, like I wanted to keep my business open.
Mm-hmm.
And, we ended up shutting down before the government asked us to, but, but like, that's my job, right? Is to be profitable. The government is like, their job is to protect people, to some extent. Right. And so I'm pretty like, resentful of the way things are being handled, and the way, money's being mismanaged, and the disadvantages some people have. It's frustrating. I don't know if people will even realize that undocumented or folks with documentation challenges are the ones that are, are a lot of the ones really stepping up. There's a lot of nurses and doctors and grocery store workers and restaurant workers and,
People in
it's
agriculture.
not, yeah, agriculture. Yeah. It's like, it's crazy. And I keep saying that it's crazy,
But
uh,
you have taken some measures to take care of people in your orbit and set up a fund. And can you, because I want people listening to this, if they have inclination to do a similar thing, about what the mechanics are of that, and how you do the collection, how you do the distribution of it. Just because I see these efforts popping up around the country, and I'm really heartened by it. But mutual aid is only going to get us so far. We absolutely need government intervention, but you've come up with something that I think is a really good thing that our fantastic colleague Kushbu Shah wrote about when you first did it. So can you talk about how that fund is working?
yeah. So, initially when we were doing the financial breakdown of how, we could survive with the money we had left and, what measures we could take to, um, take care of people that weren't going to be taken care of, we realized quickly that a lot of these undocumented people or people with documentation challenges um, would be in trouble. And simultaneously, a lot of people were, DMing us and emailing us about gift cards and merch. And, gift cards are not the best way to help because, I mean, they help now. It's money in now, but it's product out the door later. So, it's kind of like a loan, I guess.
Yeah.
Whereas like merch is not a good margin. And, it's like, retail clothes aren't always, I mean, I'm sure like, tons of people are making great, businesses over doing that, but we're restaurants. So, getting, it's not a great margin. And, we were kind of like, well, Josh and I were trying to figure out how to, manage, this closure. And we were like, well, if we do a Venmo thing and we make it really easy for our Instagram, network or whatever to, um, if we can direct that money to something more productive, even though, merch and gift cards would have helped the business a little bit more, we figured that this way we could solicit donations, because people already wanted to give us money. So maybe we could redirect those feelings to people who needed it more. And that's like, and then we kind of take care of our own problem, right? By, having some of these people who didn't have access to unemployment, they could get some sort of relief. So, we raised it, over 34K.
Wow. Oh, that's so wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, and it is wonderful. And it's also crazy because that's like, you know, it's mesmerizing how quickly that disappears. And, you know, um, we basically matched the government stimulus checks for a group of people, and then beyond that, we distributed the rest of the funds to the staff at large. So nobody would be penalized for being American, or and I think that was important for us to make sure that our team didn't feel you know didn't feel upset by prioritizing certain other people, but so making sure that everybody got money was important, and we worded the fund pretty carefully. The flyer that we post on Instagram to indicate that,
Yeah.
and we that's and then so we still have some money in the fund that we're continuing to stream in slowly. But now that we've like matched that stimulus check, we're not sure how we're going to redistribute the rest, but we'll do it in a way that's fair and helps those in need, as best as possible, and kind of probably stick to the same. We just got to find a new like barometer, right? This government stimulus check was our point to match, and then so now we need to figure out another subjective like term of fairness. And it's never going to be fair. But yeah, it's crazy. Again, I'm saying that.
And how are your folks doing? So, I've been talking with a lot of different business owners and stuff, some of whom have closed down, some of whom are still open for takeout and other operations, and how they're communicating to the staff right now, if they're having, virtual
Yeah,
lineups or doing stuff in person. Like, how are your people holding up?
they're okay. I think a lot of people are stressed out, and a lot of people are just this thing sucks. Like a lot, even if you're getting a fat unemployment check and sitting at home, like, that's not why you moved to New York, like to be in an apartment and scared, So, we're trying to send weekly updates and to our staff and tag base with people and keep tabs on everybody and encourage them to let us know how they feel comfortable coming back to work. And I think everybody's okay. I think, some of our staff is really frustrated with people's lack of willingness to quarantine and distance, and which is super understandable. And it's, feels shitty to have like probably been a contributing factor to that when, we were like, hey, listen, it's like the flu, like we're doing what the government tells us to do. So like, take it easy, come to work, wash your hands, don't be an idiot. And, but like, at the time, like prioritizing the business over and like being careful, that was like the information we had. And I'm not excusing myself, but that's definitely, you know, I just hope our staff trusts us that that we've always been keeping, even in terms of prioritizing the business, it's like, that's, you know, it's not like we're just like, diving into the money pool and like,
Scrooge McDuck in it.
yeah, we're, like a healthy business, enables us to do things like take care of people. So, um, it's just crazy, it's, I hope we're not, I hope they give us the benefit of the doubt. I mean, we have over 50 employees, or we have around 50 employees total. So, we've done a lot of communicating via email, a lot of personal phone calls, and, I think people are okay. They're just like the rest of the world, scared and, frustrated and sad, and angry.
Yeah,
um,
I have this necklace that I like. I've given out a few of them over the years, and it's from this British jewelry company that I like, and it's based on a bus sign that says "Not in service." And like, I've given it to a few friends to remind them, like, you can take a break every once in a while. But like one was saying yesterday, it's taken on a different meaning for her because she's so used to being in service, and that
right.
is really what's eating at her right now. Because you don't pick this life because it's easy. You pick it because you're
Yeah.
driven to it for a particular
Yeah.
reason. And I know that's such a challenge for folks, especially if like the work right now for so many people is staying home. And that's really a tough pill to swallow if you're used to feeding other people. It's really, really hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's yeah, it's it's definitely the weirdest challenge that I've ever, and I feel like a lot of what's going on right now as well is a psychological trauma, because of, like the damage is done, and we're going to continue seeing damage. We're going to continue seeing people die that didn't need to die, and that's always going to be tough. But in addition to, the collateral from this from COVID, we have to experience this like polarizing, chaotic political dynamic that's like, you know, that's just really affecting everyone and making it worse. We're like the richest, and um, we're like one of the richest countries in the world and most advanced countries in the world. And you know, you look at Taiwan and South Korea and New Zealand and Germany, and you see how these countries, you know, took care of their problems with COVID. And South Korea had a big problem, and they got under control and took care of it. And it's like, I know it's not one person's fault, but it's definitely the chaos and the disjointed management team in our at the top is like palpable, and I think that's where I get really like feel defeated, is that I just I don't know, based on the way people have reacted to that and like been blindly defensive, or I don't know if we're gonna address that issue. I don't think people are willing to see that it's a problem. And if people can't even see that there's like chaotic, disjointed, you know, um, problems at the top right now, and aren't willing to, you know, be critical, then how are people with documentation challenges going to get pathways to citizenship after, like laying down, their, everything to jump back to work because they have to, because they have no choice. It's like, I don't know.
I mean, I keep referring to it as weaponized anxiety because it feels like, a lot of misinformation or confusion or whatever is a tactic. And I just have to hope that, people who are not maybe seeing that right now eventually are able to recognize and realize it. And especially sort of, I have to believe that we're going to get past this particular point of it, the disease infection part of it, but it's laid bare a lot of the faulty foundation on which so much of this was built, and especially restaurants, like whose labor is valued or not valued. And I keep thinking about the critical role of diners during this, and what they will be willing to, I mean, they're going to see it because restaurants are going to be very, very different, and prices are going to have to change, and the structure of service is going to have to change to allow for these protections. And I can't help but think, once people see this fundamental part of their life that they have taken for granted has changed, that maybe that will, I don't know, show a human face to it, maybe make them understand a little bit more about the actual cost of, what goes into their meals. I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic as best I can, but,
Yeah,
as each day ticks
be,
by, it's harder.
not to be pessimistic, but people in with more space, they're definitely feeling this too. But it's a lot easier, if you're in Kentucky or Virginia, and you live on 3 acres, and you can, um, pretty carefully like get in your car and wear gloves and mask and go to the store and get some stuff and come home and cook for a week. It's a lot different than being cooped up in your apartment and ordering takeout and delivery and trying to, wait in line to get in the grocery store. And, it's like, it's just, I don't think we're going to all walk out understanding what this was like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like the insular city view versus the middle America view. And I think that's going to get kind of twisted and, turned around, and, you know,
Yeah. And if
um,
I'm allowed to say this, like you've got a little bitty baby at home,
yeah, yeah.
and the parks and everything are closed. And I've seen my colleagues with kids, some of them really struggling because it's not like we live in the suburbs where you can run out and go to the playground or go and or have a big yard and can go and do these things. You've got, how old is your baby?
Well, luckily she's only 7 weeks.
I didn't know
So
she was that new.
yeah,
Oh,
she's really new. So she was born on March 4th.
oh,
Um,
wow.
and right before all this stuff, right before shit hit the fan. And after we closed, I ran the family down to Virginia, and we stayed at my aunt's got like a little cabin in a rural area outside of Charlottesville. And it's more like a little farmhouse. So we went there and posted up, and I actually came down with what my ER doctor thought was COVID, and I think is COVID. While I was down there, my wife lost her sense of taste and smell,
Oh,
but
wow. Yeah.
medically affected. But I was like, had fever and chills and sweats, and my lungs were sore, and I couldn't. I every time I'd make tea, I'd have a coughing fit and hardly could catch my breath, had a headache, fatigue, all of the symptoms. And, I tested negative for influenza and pneumonia. So, my ER doctor is like, well, like, could be some respiratory virus we don't know about, but, like, you pretty much have this thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to prescribe you some cough medicine and, make sure you take Tylenol and come back if you can't catch your breath. And, I basically quarantined myself in Virginia for, a renewed 14-day period. And once I hit that, I took a test that I was able to get down there. There's like a chain clinic called BetterMed that has contract with Abbott. The company that makes the test. So, I drove like a couple hours to go get a test and tested inconclusive the first time, and then tested again a few days later, and tested negative. So, that was like well after my symptoms had passed. So, I was already in like a clear quarantine period, but
Yeah.
I was out of the woods there in terms of quarantining. So I have expected not to come back positive, but it was nice to know that because I'm coming back to New York and being around food. So,
Yeah. And if you have the antibodies now.
yeah, hopefully, right? I mean, hopefully that's like a thing, and you can't recontract it or whatever. But it was yeah.
I'm so sorry
I
you had
didn't.
to go through that.
No, I mean honestly, I'm glad that it's funny. I'm glad that I did, and my mother-in-law who came to visit the baby, the newborn baby, and has been parked with us for the past. She's over 60, so we're definitely worried about her, and she got a cold around the time when I got it, and had like kind of a dry cough, but it didn't, maybe she's not symptomatic, maybe I didn't have it, or I don't know what the hell it was if I didn't have it, but, Patty, my wife had the symptoms of like had non-symptomatic carrier, signals like with the loss of taste and smell. So, who knows really, but we were definitely worried about my mother-in-law, and I was grateful that it was, allegedly COVID over influenza, because influenza would have been really terrible for the baby. But I haven't had
Yeah.
like a fever since I was in like fifth grade or something. I had like 102-degree fever for like, almost a week. And it was like,
Oh
um,
my God.
yeah, I mean, honestly, like it was definitely intense, but it was like best case scenario. It would be terrible if my wife had to deal with that while nursing. And with older folks, it's a little bit more serious, right? So I'm glad my mother-in-law didn't have to go through it. And then, we were able to kind of like ride it out. And then I drove back and spent a week opening the restaurant solo without my wife and family. And then I went back down there when we closed for Monday and Tuesday last week and picked them up, and they're back here, healthy and happy. So, all things considered, you know, just blessed to be busy, and working with a lot of these guys that are, happy to have work as well. Um,
I'm so grateful for what you're doing and helping other folks out, and that you have emerged as this voice during it, because there's so much ahead. There's one more question I wanted to ask you, because I'm
yeah.
working on a piece about this, and I figured you would probably have a great answer. I feel like often the general public doesn't know what who porters are and what they do and why they're so valuable. Can you talk a little bit about why we need to value porters?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, it's kind of like this like, this position that if you're not in the business, you don't even really understand it. And you can like think about it and conceptualize it, but you still aren't going to really like the work that a porter typically will do. My understanding or version of a porter, like porters run a they span a few different types of jobs, right? Washing dishes, generally keeping things clean. Sometimes these porter roles can um, grow into like facilities and facility maintenance, or um, you know, um, dining room. Sometimes porters are out in the dining room more, bussing stuff. But I mean that's typically not the case. But my porters at the restaurants are they're it's not just a dishwasher, right? But these guys are doing stuff that your average American doesn't want to do or know how to do. And once kind of like they typically once people realize what kind of work goes into it, they run away from it. And like our porters, it's like you're working with degreaser chemicals, cleaning hood vents, scrubbing, like just scrubbing shit and cleaning, like even like in New York you don't really think about often like who's like cleaning the sidewalk, but these guys will often like help us power wash the sidewalk, and Josh and I are typically like right there with them doing that stuff as well, but on a daily basis, um, you know a lot of this like grunt work is fulfilled by folks that um, are just like you just don't even notice them because it's like a I don't know. I guess I'm rambling a little bit here, but it's hard for it's hard for somebody that's not in the industry to have this like appreciation for a porter, because it's simply like it just sounds kind of simplified when you put it in words, but like the amount of work and pride and like just being clean and taking and keeping things clean and efficiently cleaning, it's not an easy job, and a lot of people aren't willing to do it.
So this is why I'm writing this story, because I want people to be able to appreciate this. And I have this crazy fantasy that when things come back from this, that porters are valued so much more and paid so much more, and there's I don't know something, because they're the backbone of so many restaurants, and
Yeah,
I don't know.
businesses are changing, and it's not like the 90s or the early 2000s where you just like you can throw anybody in there. I think out coming out I think coming out of this COVID thing, there's going to be a lot of like owner operators and a lot of big groups, right? Like the Ruth Chris's that get like 20 million belts, and then there's going to be like owner operators that like roll up their sleeves and like were lucky enough to stay in business. And I'm sure there's going to be in between as well. But I think I think if you're on the owner operator side of that spectrum, you're not a good owner operator if you don't know your porters intimately and consider them
Yeah,
as some important people you work with, and go to great measures to take care of those people,
I
which
I
is
think all
definitely a
the
priority.
good ones do. I hope,
Yeah,
at least.
yeah. I mean,
But I mean,
yeah, it's crazy.
but yeah, I keep thinking I want this is, and I ask that question because I want the diners to know, and if prices go up in restaurants, I want them to know the people who it's going to, and who we really have to take care of, and know the value of those people, because I know that like the owner operators do what they can, and they value and all of that, but I think that there's a lot of public education that we can do with this. So I really appreciate that explanation, and I appreciate
Yeah.
everything that you're
No,
doing. And
I
so
hope it
if
helps.
people want to,
I don't feel
and
like I'm doing anything like crazy. Like it's like I know it seems like it may seem like we're ahead of it or doing this great, like but it's like if we can take care of our business and our family and our like restaurant community, and like everybody could do that, then like it might save dependence on shitty federal leadership or so. I don't know how we're just doing what we have to do. It's not we're not these like crazy um, you know philanthropists. We're just, we're trying to take care of people who deserve to be taken care of. Uh, I don't know. Anyway, yeah. Thank for asking me some questions and having me on.
Thank you so much to our guest today, Trigg Brown, and I will include his Venmo handle in this and links to his restaurant if you're anywhere in the delivery area. They're still turning out incredible food, per all of my colleagues who have been ordering it, because we all at Food and Wine really, really love Winsun and Winsun Bakery, and we love Trigg, and we really truly care about all the people who are working in restaurants and not working in restaurants right now. So we're also including a link to all the resources that are available to help out folks. So there is still an industry to return to. If you can possibly make your voice heard to members of Congress, to anyone who will listen, saverestaurants.com, used to be saverestaurants.co, I guess somebody gave up the domain, are really... It's a coalition of people who've come together to issue a full-throated cry for really a future for this industry, and go there and figure out ways that you can help. We also are including lists to every single group that we run across locally and nationally. The more of us who come together, the louder we can all scream collectively. And it's okay to ask for help right now too if you're a person who is suffering, who's maybe laid off from your job or facing an uncertain future. It is okay to ask for help. You're the people who keep us fed, keep us happy, keep us, safe, and it's time really for all of us to take care of you as well. So please let us know what you need. Don't be afraid to reach out to any of these organizations that are offering help. Anybody is just, a disaster away from facing some really dire circumstances. Not everybody is facing the same challenges, but everybody is facing something, and we are collectively stronger together. So this is part of Food and Wine Pro, as I said at the top. That is our section of the magazine and the website and in-person events where we really try to speak to the industry and, address what you're facing in good times and in bad, and really try to amplify your voices and let you know you're not alone, figure out better ways to do things, offer advice from experts, and just create a place where people can rally and celebrate the industry that we all love. So if you go to foodandwine.com/FWPro, you can see all of our latest stories there, and also sign up for the Food and Wine Pro newsletter written by our editor-in-chief, Hunter Lewis, our Osette Babur, our associate restaurant editor, and I work on that, as well as Kelsey Youngman, who works in our test kitchen and is an incredible human being who is also a certified meditation instructor. So she offers words of wisdom to us at our weekly all-staff meeting, and we share that in the newsletter every week. So please sign up for that, and you'll find always the links to the latest podcasts in there. Thank you so much to our production team, Jennifer Martnick and Hallie Tarpley, as well as our photo editor, Sarah Crowder, they're working from home as well and still getting stuff done. And I really, really appreciate everything that they have put into these podcasts. So thank you so much to them. And most importantly, take good care of yourself. Until the next time.